The flagship national parks are the top sites of the United States. All of them are beautiful, and all of them has at least one claim to fame. Compared to other sites, they all deserve 5 stars. But within this fabulous collection of parks, which are in the middle of the pack, these are the 3-star parks. By definition, rating national parks is a subjective process. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We all have different tastes and appreciate different things. Having said that, however, I also tried to rank the parks objectively based on a number of factors such as visitation and proximity to people. The link to that video is in the description. Because I have visited all the national parks, I can compare them and rate them based on my tastes. I like parks with beautiful scenery, easy to tour, with easy to moderate hikes. I don't like crowds, and I don't do backcountry hikes. These parks are the ones that is the main destination for your trip, where you spend the majority of your time. Many of them have one major focus that is the best in the world, but not as diverse as the higher rated parks. The video for the 4 and 5-star parks are in the description below, as are the videos for the 1 and 2-star parks. There are 16 parks in this 3-star category, about a quarter of all the parks. The links to the video and blog for each park are in the description. They have a lot more details and tips on how to visit. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and give it a thumbs up because it really helps the channel and I really appreciate it. So let's get started with the big trees. Sequoia National Park. If you're looking for the biggest tree in the world, Sequoia is your park. At 275 feet tall and 36 feet wide, General Sherman tree is the single largest tree in the world by volume. There are lots of giant trees in this park, with excellent hikes in the midst of these giant trees. You have to see it to believe how big these trees are. In addition to the giant trees, the mountain vistas and the rolling rivers, especially in the spring, are gorgeous. Continue on the theme of big trees, let's go next door to Kings Canyon National Park. General Grant tree, the second largest in the world, is only 9 feet shorter and 7 feet narrower than the General Sherman tree. It became the second largest tree when the Washington tree, previously the second largest tree, was hit by lightning and lost half of its crown in 2003. The other major attraction here is the Kings Canyon Scenic Byway, one of the most beautiful drives that rivals Zion Canyon Drive. It runs next to a beautiful river with steep canyon walls. This park is reminiscent of Yosemite, with narrower canyons, smaller waterfalls, and smaller meadows. It does not have the crowd of Yosemite, making it very enjoyable to visit. Redwoods National Park. The tallest trees are at Redwoods National Park. The Hyperion tree is considered the tallest in the world at 379 feet. That's more than 100 feet taller than the General Sherman tree, but is much skinnier. It is, however, not an attraction in the park, and you can't visit it. There are no trails to it, and in fact, if you get too close to it, you'll maybe fined up to $5,000. The National Park Service does not plan to build a trail to this tree because it may not be the tallest tree in the future. Redwoods frequently lose sections of their crown due to wind and lightning. The title of the tallest tree has changed many times over the years and will surely change again in the future. You can only see the first 150 feet of the tree anyway from the ground, so it'll make it a little bit pointless to visit. There are, however, plenty of other redwood trees in the park. Some of the trails through forests of very tall trees and ferns are delightful to hike. The coast in the park has fantastic views and seals frolicking in the ocean near the driftwood-laden sandy coast. Staying on the theme of trees, how about iconic trees? Saguaro National Park. Saguaro cactus tree is the big draw at Saguaro National Park. Standing human-like, with outstretched arms, These trees grow very slowly and can live up to 200 years. Saguaro is the symbol of the America West and the desert. There are two parts of this park: the Tucson Mountain area with larger trees and a 6-mile scenic drive, the Rincon Mountain area with an 8-mile scenic drive. Both sides have great hiking trails that suit all abilities. There are hikes in the desert with very little shade and hot temperatures during the day. Be sure to bring lots of water, a hat, sunscreen, and don't overestimate your ability. Saguaro is easy to reach and tour. It's well worth the visit. From one scenic tree to another, let's go to Joshua Tree National Park. Joshua trees are weird looking in my opinion. I wouldn't call them pretty or magnificent, but they are unique. They look like saguaro with pine needles at the tip of their branches. While this park has lots of Joshua trees, it is really more about the desert and the desert landscape. It's a park that is just fun to visit. In addition to Joshua trees, there are many kinds of cacti and big palm trees, as well as mountain and rock piles. Rye Mountain rises 1,000 feet from the desert floor with a fantastic view at the top. It is well worth a 3-mile hike. Key View looks down on Coachella Valley, a mile below, the San Andreas Fault, and across to a mountain range with 10,000-foot peaks. The valley is hazy due to pollution, but is still amazing to see. The most fun part of the park are the rock piles. Hidden Valley has rocks of just the right size to scramble on. The texture of the rocks provide great traction, making it easy to climb. Some of the parks, like Skull Rock, have interesting shapes. Joshua Tree can be crowded because it's relatively close to Los Angeles metro area, and because it's so fun to visit. It gets well over 3 million visitors a year, 9th busiest in the system. Staying with the desert theme, let's go from the desert of Southern California to the desert of Texas and Big Bend National Park. Big Bend is in South Texas, on the Mexican border. It's remote and relatively hard to reach. While it has a desert, it's far more diverse than the parks we've visited so far. There are 3 major areas: the desert, the mountain, and the river. Chihuahuan Desert makes up most of Big Bend, with its vast area and openness. Chisos Mountain, at more than 7,600 feet, is the only mountain range entirely within a national park. The park's only lodge is in this area, with many hiking trails. The Rio Grande is not only the border between the United States and Mexico, it is also the source of life in this desert. Steep cliffs of over 1,500 feet rise above the Rio Grande at Santa Elena Canyon and Boquillas Canyon. These are the most dramatic views of Big Bend. Because of the variety of landscape and climate, there are many different animals that call Big Bend home, from the roadrunners to the Mexican jay. There is a hot spring, historical sites, and the border crossing to Mexico. You can walk across the river when the water level is low, or pay $5 to be rowed across the river. A valid passport is required. Because it's so remote, Big Bend has one of the darkest nights anywhere, which made it great for stargazing on a clear night. Big Bend is well worth the effort to see, and it's just a fun park to visit. One more park in a dry place before we head elsewhere. Let's go to Capitol Reef National Park. One of Utah's mighty 5 national parks, Capitol Reef doesn't get as much attention as her cousins. It's the least visited park of the mighty 5, and that is a very good thing. You won't have to fight a crowd or deal with reservations. If Red Rock is your thing, Capitol Reef is the park to visit. Its claim to fame is the 100-mile-long Water Pocket Fold, a majestic and colorful red rock formation. Highway 24 runs across the park, with stunning scenery and many overlooks. Scenic Drive, even more stunning, branches off and leads to some great hikes right into the fold. Some, like the Grand Wash, is a narrow, dry riverbed that cuts across the fold with steep cliffs on both sides. There are historical sites, such as an old schoolhouse and even a fruit orchard. Like some of the parks already visited, This park also has fantastic night sky for stargazing. Let's go from the barren red rocks to lush green scenery, starting with the new River Gorge National Park. New River Gorge is a new park, designated in 2020. The scenery is green in spring and summer, turning yellow and red for great color in the fall. The new river runs through the park. There are 3 main areas in the park: the Canyon Rim area, the Grand View area, and the Sandstone Falls area. Canyon Rim features the iconic bridge that crosses the new river and some old coal mines. The river near the Canyon Rim area has Class 3 and 4 rapids, great for whitewater rafting. The arch of the bridge spans 1,700 feet, the longest single-span bridge in the United States. If you're looking for some excitement on land, do the bridge walk. You can walk along the catwalk under the deck of the bridge, high above the new river with a guide. With the noise of the traffic above and the height above the river below, it can be very nerve-wracking. Each year in October, the park hosts Bridge Day, when the daredevils can jump off of the bridge and parachute their way to the river. The Grand View overlook has the best view of the river, as it makes a 180-degree bend. There are trails that run along the rim of the gorge with excellent views. With the coal industry comes a railroad to bring the coal to market. Thurmont, in the Grandview area, is a train station and historical district that is a lot of fun to visit, especially for train buffs. The southern part of the park has Sandstone Falls, a short but wide waterfall that is mesmerizing to look at. New River Gorge has nice scenery, diversity, and easy to tour. It's well worth the visit. Continuing on the theme of green scenery, let's go to the most popular national park, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. With more than 13 million visitors in 2023, by far the park with the most visitors, Great Smoky Mountains National Park attracts a big crowd. It's close to a lot of people with great mountain scenery, great hikes for people of every ability, and a bit of history. No wonder it attracts such a large crowd. In addition to great scenery, Great Smoky has lots of animals, from elk to black bear. Kleeman's Dome, the highest point in the park, is often shrouded in the fog, but when the weather is clear, it affords tremendous mountain views. There are many waterfalls that are a short hike from the road. Cades Cove on the western side of the park has historical structures that remind us of the way things used to be. The park is big, with lots of hiking trails. Even with all the visitors, you don't feel crowded except when you're trying to find the parking at a trailhead in the middle of the day. It's easy to tour, the scenery is gorgeous, especially when the famous blue haze rolls in, or when the leaves change color in the fall with all its yellow and red colors. Continuing on the East Coast, let's head south to Everglades National Park in South Florida. The wildlife is the main attraction here, from all kinds of birds to alligators. The park is the 3rd largest in the lower 48 states, with some great walks, boat rides, and a tram tour. The ecosystem is very fragile. Wildlife depends on a constant flow of water from Lake Okeechobee. A change of a few inches creates different habitats for plants, fish, and birds. The Nahinga Trail is mostly a boardwalk over wetland full of fish, birds, turtle, and alligators. It's one of the most fun trails anywhere. The Flamingo area has a nice boat tour of Florida Bay, where you can spot dolphins and a great place to see sunset. At the other end of the park is Shark Valley, where you can get a tram tour to see lots of alligators and birds of all kinds. Alternatively, you can rent a bike and tour the 10-mile loop. Very close to Miami, Everglades is an easy place to tour, but the distances from one part to another is large. To avoid the heat and the bugs, visit in the winter. Now, let's head to the other end of the country, about as far as you can go, to Alaska and Lake Clark National Park, more than 4,000 miles away. Come to Lake Clark for the lake and the bears. Lake Clark is a beautiful glacier-fed turquoise lake surrounded by tall mountains. It's one of the most beautiful lakes in a national park, yet it's the 3rd least visited national park, with only 16,000 visitors in 2023. Why? Because it's hard and expensive to get there. There are no roads. The main way in is by bush plane to Port Ellsworth, population 158. Getting there, though, is part of the fun. Since it was a clear day, our pilot flew inside a valley from Anchorage to Port Ellsworth, following a river with snow-capped mountains taller than us on both sides and the occasional glacier. The lake is 40 miles long and a couple of miles wide. The water is turquoise in color, much like the famous Lake Louise in Canada. If you want solitude, this is the place to be. We spent several hours on the lake and saw only one other boat. We hiked 3 miles to the gorgeous Contrashibunai Lake and saw only one family in the entire hike. There were a couple of thundering waterfalls along the way that would be the highlight of other parks. Lake Clark, along with the preserve, is vast. It's bigger than the states of Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. In addition to Lake Clark itself, you can visit the coast where the brown bears look for salmon and clams, or Twin Lakes and the Pronaki Cabin, the topic of the 1973 book One Man's Wilderness. Crescent Lake is another popular destination in the park. It's jade green with lots of salmon and lots of bear. It is only accessible by plane. People come to fish and watch bears. While expensive and hard to reach, Lake Clark is secluded, beautiful, with great fishing, bear viewing, and hiking. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe so you get notification for all the latest videos that I put out. Thank you. Now let's go next door to the land of brown bears and an alien landscape. Katmai National Park. If you want to see salmon jumping into the waiting jaws of a brown bear, Katmai is the place to go. Reachable only by plane or boat, Katmai is not easy to get to, with lodging so limited it requires a lottery. However, watching a huge 700-pound brown bear perch on Brooks Falls waiting for the salmon to jump right into the jaws is worth the trip. Can't make it to the park? There is a live stream of Brooks Falls. Just search for Brooks Falls Live Cam. The lake and the mountains surrounding the area is beautiful. There is plenty of fishing and a few good hikes. Even though it's hard and expensive to reach, Brooks Falls, where the salmon jump happen, can feel crowded during the day in season. The season is short and the time for salmon run is even shorter, so plan accordingly. The other major attraction is the Land of 10,000 Smokes that feature the alien-like landscape of the lava flow after a volcanic eruption. This is a day-long bus tour and a ranger-led hike, or you can view it from the air with a flight scene tour. If you want to see huge brown bears in their natural habitat, Katmai is the park for you. From one volcanic landscape to another, let's head to the park with all 4 types of volcanoes in one place. Lassen Volcanic National Park. The claim to fame for this park is that it has all 4 types of volcanoes in one place. That sounds nice, but the park is really about geothermal sites, Lassen Peak, and the pristine lakes. Bumpus Hell and Sulphur Works have steam vents and bubbling mud pools. Lake Helen and Manzanita Lake are gorgeous mountain lakes. Chaos Jumbo has evidence of violent eruptions in the past. The centerpiece of the park is Lassen Peak, the dominant feature of the park. A short but steep 2.5-mile trail takes you from the parking lot 2,000 feet up to the peak for a fantastic view. There are hikes to waterfalls and meadows, and a very pretty scenic drive through the park. With less than 500,000 visitors a year, Lassen is not crowded. It's pretty easy to visit and very pretty. It's one of the most underrated parks. This is just a fun park to visit. It's well worth a couple of days. Another park with one dominant feature is Mount Rainier National Park. The 14,000-foot Mount Rainier is so dominant, it's visible from the Seattle-Tacoma Airport, and is certainly the dominant feature of this national park. It has beautiful waterfalls like Christine Falls and Narada Falls that are short walks from the parking lot. It has an iconic lodge that feels like it belongs in a national park. Box Canyon is a miniature version of a deep and narrow canyon at 180 feet deep and only 13 feet wide at its narrowest point. If you're up for a multi-day hike, you can hike all the way around Mount Rainier on the 93-mile Wonderland Trail, or join the 10,000 people who attempt to reach the summit, though only about half makes it. This is a diverse park. It has old-growth forests, glaciers, and even huge trees. This is what makes Mount Rainier so much fun to visit. Now let's go a bit south to South Dakota and the distinctive Badlands Formation. Badlands National Park. Badlands Formation is different and mesmerizing. It looks like a wall of mounds several hundred feet tall. There are no trees and no vegetation in these mounds. It exudes rugged beauty. This is also one of the easiest parks to visit. You can simply drive the 40-mile Badlands Loop that is super scenic and stop at as many overlooks and trailheads as you would like for the many different views and perspectives. Some overlook a sea of Badlands hills while others look out on grasslands and the river valley. I have a video that records the full drive of the Badlands Loop. The link is in the description, so check it out. The Notch Trail leads to a stunning view of the White River Valley and includes a section of the rope ladder that is super fun to climb. Wildlife here includes bighorn sheep and prairie dogs. Badlands is beautiful, easy to tour, and lots of fun to visit. The Black Hills area of South Dakota, including the national park, is well worth a week to visit. Time to visit the final 3-star park, Carlsbad Caverns National Park. Carlsbad Caverns is the best cave in the national parks. The formations in this cave are the prettiest and the most interesting. You can tour most of it yourself without a guide. Time entry ticket is required and reservation is strongly recommended. You can enter the cave at the natural entrance. The trail to the bottom is 1.25 miles long, but descends 750 feet with many interesting formations along the way. The trail ends at the Big Room, the single largest cave chamber in North America. The 1.25 mile figure 8 trails is wheelchair accessible and goes around this vast chamber with a variety of formations and small pools. Because the main cave is a self-guided tour, you can stay as long as you want and tour at the pace you want. The single most impressive room is King's Palace, but this one is only reachable with a ranger-led tour. The formation here is so beautiful and ornate, it looks like it belongs as a set for the Beauty and the Beast. It is well worth the time and expense. There are other ranger-led tours that change from time to time, so check the park website for the current schedule. Elevators are available for those who do not want to hike, but the wait, especially going up, can be lengthy, so plan accordingly. In the summertime, there is a spectacle each evening at dusk, when thousands of bats fly out of the cave for their nightly adventure. It is such a wonderful sight, the Park Service built an amphitheater for it. There are many trails above the surface, part of the Guadalupe Mountains and the Chihuahuan Desert. They range from a few hundred feet to the 100-mile Guadalupe Ridge Trail, 20 miles of which is inside this national park. If you want to see the best cave in a national park, Carlsbad Caverns is the park to see. There you have it, all the 3-star national parks. These parks are well worth a visit, and even plan a trip with the park as the main destination. They are in the middle of the pack, worthy of the National Park designation, which is already an elite set of parks. If you made it this far in the video, you must like it, so please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to check out the videos on the parks ranked objectively, the 5, 4, 2, and 1-star parks, and for each of the parks. The links are in the description below. Do you agree with my ratings? Which of these parks should be rated higher and which should be rated lower? Leave a comment below and let's have fun debate.